Feel the debate. Fire up your day. Middle Ground Coffee is here. Bold flavor, no size, just forward. Grab yours at store.themiddlegroundmic.com and let's go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Middle Ground Mic. We got a great guest here today, Jackson. I mean, got to see your show the other day. I really appreciate you being on here today. We kind of talk, especially, with your spiritual reflection, everything that's been going on. The world needs just more people that have a level head like you. And especially in our age group, your age group, there's just so much toxic, so I really appreciate you coming on here today.
Oh, man, it's an honor and love what you're doing. Congratulations on the success. That I think is so awesome, especially just starting out and to have, that boom. So congrats. It's an honor to be on with you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, like I was saying earlier, I didn't think it would take off this way. I just started putting it out there and people just, I don't know, start clicking in. And I was like, it works for me, you know, uh, so, based on like, your book, how does that, that and like your background of faith and like, we were kind of talking a little bit, like how the world kind of, especially our country is kind of, I don't know if you want to say like went to the left in certain areas, but it just feels like that, certain parts of it have become that, if you want to call it. Like, certain sections have become so ingrained where you could give them the winning lottery numbers and they would still call you the devil. Like how, like, because, faith is what a lot is it about, right? Because especially, I don't even think a lot of people realize when they have an incident like something that like happened the other day or something like that in their life, right? Even if they're not religious, they almost always default to praying to God. Like
It's a
they're
natural instinct.
yeah, because it's real.
We have a natural instinct that that simple primitive prayer when things are going to chaos all around us, we pray that basic help. It's a natural human instinct, and it's unfortunate. It takes tragedy sometimes to bring people to a place where they do call out for help from the Lord. But the good news is, God's a good God. He answers and He hears and He responds. It's unfortunate what our nation's going through. What we're seeing is the same thing that happened during the time of Christ. When the political spirit and the religious spirit come together, it produces death. You see, it was a political spirit and a religious spirit that put Christ on a cross. It was both. And what happened to Charlie Kirk wasn't just political. Charlie was a strong ambassador for the Christian faith to a younger generation that was supposed to have been a lost generation. Of all the experts said Christianity was essentially going to die off in the United States. The young generation was not going to have anything to do with it. And they were wrong. Charlie Kirk led a movement, not just of conservative values, but of strong biblical Christianity. And so a political spirit and a religious spirit coming together produces death. And unfortunately, we're in a spiritual battle. I know a lot of people, they see the politics play out in real life, but there's a spiritual battle behind the scenes that is happening. So we have to be aware of those things. And the more we're aware of those things, the more we realize, how do you fight and win this battle? Yes, you get out to vote, you engage, all the things, you do those things, but there's a spiritual component. We have to be willing to pray, to seek God, to live lives that are light and salt of the earth. I mean, the reason Jesus calls Christians light of the world and salt of the earth is because the world's dark and the world needs light, and we're supposed to be light. And salt's an interesting thing to compare you and I to salt, right? Is that an
Yeah.
insult? Is that a compliment? Well, you have to realize something, that salt was used as a preservative during the time of Christ. And so you had meat that you would salt so that it would last longer. And our world is in decay. Our culture is in decay. And as salt, we are supposed to help preserve the culture. That doesn't mean you can totally stop it from decaying, but you can slow it down. And that's what we're supposed to do. And Charlie was that, was he not? He was light. Charlie was salt. And, just heartbroken for his wife, Erica, and their kids, and Turning Point USA. And, Charlie was a friend of mine. And so just hard to process it. But, I put it like this: America lost a legend. The body of Christ lost an ambassador. I lost a friend, but Charlie gained his eternal reward. And
Yes.
so we rejoice for him. We mourn for his family, his friends, but we rejoice for him. And we just have to make sure his death is not in vain. but would
Yeah,
be a turning point, right? A turning point in America.
yeah, something I really liked the other, was it I believe it was yesterday, where the vice president was essentially escorting his casket. And, I thought that was probably one of the most stand-up things I've seen a lot of
Yes.
any political leaders do in so long. And you could just tell, like, it wasn't like, it wasn't a stunt. Like, it
Right.
was real. You could tell he was feeling everything that was going on with himself. Like, and it just, I think that that's important, right? Because it shows, like you were talking to younger generation, like, hey, it's okay. Like, it's okay to want to be Christian. It's okay to want to be conservative. That doesn't make you a bad person. And just like you, I remember people saying, oh, conservatives are dying off essentially, liberals are taking over. And then here comes, great people like Charlie Kirk. I mean, heck, like yourself, Vivek, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, just kind of like telling everybody, hey, it's okay. Like, you can be this and not
Yeah.
be what they're painting you to be. Like, you can be a
Right.
normal individual. Like, and Charlie, and that whole aurora, just, it was positivity. I remember I was driving down, well, freeway here, we got called 75, and I heard a lady, she said, and it really just, certain things when I hear them just stick to me, and they'll just stick to me for the rest of my life. And she was like, I believe she said that she's lesbian, but she said Charlie really helped get her going. And he always treated her and her wife like real people. And I'm like, man, I'm like, that's what people need to that's what people need to understand. Like, that's what it's all about. That's what, to me,
Right.
maybe that's what Jesus was about, right? Like, I mean, it's treating one another the right way.
Yes.
you know Obviously, you would know a little bit more in detail about it than I would, but that's
You're pretty spot on
it's
right
just,
there. You're pretty accurate.
yeah, it's, yeah, I it's just the toxic part of the country, I guess, is just so, I guess it's hard for me to grasp as an individual, because I see, I meet people like you meet your neighbor, and you don't feel that when you talk to people like that. And then you see these things happen, or if you want to call them crazies, people lost, that jump on X and TikTok, and they make some really wild videos, and you're just going, I'm in Michigan, okay, and Michigan flip flops. It's a swing state, and I don't see a lot of that. So in my head, I'm going, where is this? I mean, I get a lot of it's probably on college campuses, but I don't see a lot of that in my day to day life. So I'm like, man, I'm like, where is this? Because Michigan is still kind of, it's not like out of date per se, but the way people live life here is still traditional, right? Like, I'm still per se the head of the household, right? Like, there's the family values are still very strong here. I know there's, like, places like California, no knock to any individuals in California, but it's a very lost area. I mean, the homeless problem says it all. When you pay that much in taxes, people should not be in the streets. I mean, you got all them abandoned buildings, man. Fix one of them, put them in there. Like, a lot of these folks, the Ukraine situation, well, not the Ukraine, the war, but that the gentleman that killed that or the political
Yeah.
person that killed that young lady.
Irina.
He, yeah, I believe he was arrested, if I'm right, 11 times, and he had schizophrenic or something of that nature.
Teen.
Some, yeah, right. And if he's got mental problems, why is he out on the street? He should be in an institution. To me, like, that's where you should be. And it's not like a knock on him, but obviously he's got some serious things going on,
Serious.
and he should not be roaming the streets.
Right.
The problem is we don't have a lot of places for that now. And I think that's something that we've got to, as a nation, we've got to iron out. And I think the more we focus on things like that, we can move past this and heal. 'Cause it's all about healing. I mean, we have to figure out a way, because no matter what, you still got to share the same land. It's,
Stuck with each other,
but
right?
right. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about your book, Chasing After the Wind. Tell people, give them a little bit of a synopsis about it.
Yeah, well, the book really is all about the one thing that all of us, regardless if you're a Republican, a Democrat, whether you're from Asia, America, Africa, whether you're young, you're old, we all are actually chasing the exact same thing, but none of us are catching it. And that's why I call it Chasing After the Wind, because the wind's elusive. You can chase it, but you never really will catch it. And that one thing's happiness. All of us want to be happy because God designed us to be happy. God's the happiest being there is. His very presence is marked by, in the presence of God, there's the fullness of joy. God is a very happy being. He's the happiest being there is. And We're created in his image and likeness, and we're designed to be happy. Unfortunately, we think things, money, relationships, fame, whatever it is, we think those things will make us happy. So we chase them. And then say you catch money or you catch happiness or, I mean, you catch a relationship. Come to find out, it really doesn't last that long. You've probably had that experience where you thought if I just had this, well, then I would be happy. And you get it and you find out, oh, it's like, why do we do what we do? Like, why do I eat Oreos late at night? Is it because Oreos are good for me? No. They make me feel good. That's why I eat them. They make me happy. And sometimes people will do unholy things trying to be happy. That's why people have affairs. That's why people will go and rob. I think this will make me happy. Do drugs or become an alcoholic. No, I mean, why do they do that? They want to be happy. And you can't find happiness in any of those things. And so the book is all about how can you catch the wind? You don't have to chase it your entire life. You can actually have true happiness in this life, but it's not found in the things that we would call the American dream. Those are awesome. Those are wonderful. God is not against those things, but those things will not make you fulfilled. They will not give you peace. They will not give you contentment, neither joy. The fullness of joy is found in the presence of God. And so if you want to be happy, you got to get to know Jesus. It's the only way. It's the only way because he is the embodiment of happiness and joy. And Coach Lou Holtz, I'm a big sports guy. Coach Lou Holtz said, if you want to be happy for an hour, go eat a steak. If you want to be happy for a day, go play around the golf. You want to be happy for a week, go on a cruise. You want to be happy for
Yes.
a lifetime, though, you got to get to know Jesus. And so that's what the book is all. I get very practical too. The need of forgiveness. I deal with the problem of evil. How can we be happy in a world that is full of heartaches, heartbreaks, headaches, full pain, suffering? And we can be happy in the midst of all of that. And there's an entire chapter dealing with that issue. And so I get very practical. How do you catch the wind? And you can catch it. And so the book's available. Daryl Strawberry, the baseball player, wrote the foreword for me, and we're getting great reviews on the book. And so I'd encourage anybody, if you want to stop chasing the wind and actually catch it, I think this book will help you.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's, as you said that, about the chasing that, I don't know if you remember, you might not remember, but back in the early 2000s, 90s, Nike always just said, just do it.
Mhm.
And then they would always say on TV, go after what makes you happy. And so we just got programmed to think that way, and it's that small gratification because you're lost that people
Yes.
seek. You know what I mean? Like you seek that because you're not sure where you're at. You're not sure where your mind is because society tells you one thing, but you truly believe another. But then you feel like if you don't accommodate society, you get left behind. And, that's where a lot of people seem to be stuck and they're afraid. Some people, not everybody, but a lot of people seem that they're afraid to be like, hey, this is me. And I
Well,
think
you
that
have
they
to
would
realize
find it. It's okay.
we've been lied to. It's called advertising. They sell you on the idea this will make you happy. Only for you to
Yes.
get it's like when you go get a new iPhone, right? You go get a brand new iPhone and then like 2 months later you're like, "No, now there's a new iPhone." And I need and it's a never-ending cycle of advertisement. And it makes us happy for a moment. That is settle for like soap bubbles. They're just
Yeah.
here for a moment and then they're gone and then we have to pursue something else. And that's why I say if you chase the wind your whole life, you'll never find true happiness. But if you chase Jesus and you follow Jesus, you will. And so I get very practical because I understand people, what do I need to do? What do I need to implement in my life in order to have these results? And so we've had great results, great people, saying this book has helped change their life and their perspective and all those different types. So I'm loving the feedback. I'm glad it's making an impact and a difference because it's the goal, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's uh, for me, like our culture where it is, right? Okay, so hey, we are where we are. How do we, as a culture or even as individuals, overcome that barrier? You know what I mean? It's just that barrier that's there where it's just I don't know if it's fear, lack of want. I don't know what it is because I'm not in every person's heart, right? But I can tell you from an individual man's perspective on myself, that, yeah, there's some fear in there sometimes, right? But I think fear is natural, and I mean, like when you step into new things and you know when your marriage lasts a long time, you always go through trials, but you always lean back on that, like I was saying earlier, right? Like, people don't realize that when there's a tragedy, even if someone's not religious, they always default to praying to God because it's natural. It's in your heart to do it.
Well, I'll tell
Even
you,
people who
to piggyback on
go,
what you were just saying, General Flynn is a good friend of mine, and he's got a saying. He says, "There's no atheist in a foxhole. When bullets are flying all around your head, everybody's praying." And
yeah,
so that's where that's instinctive to human nature. That primitive prayer help. It's there, and unfortunately, it does take tragedy sometimes to bring that out.
yeah, and it's because it lives. When I was growing up, it was always said, "Hey, Jesus lives in your heart. That's where He is." And I'm like it. And when you think about these kind of situations, it exemplifies it, and it points to the fact that that is 1,000% to me beyond. There is no doubt that that is true. Like there is zero doubt in my mind, right? But it's just like when you talk to people, they're just always like this. You can see some of them want it, right? But they're just like they're really hesitant, and that's and then like your book, like you put, like you were talking practicality, right? But you're also honest about it. And people these days, they're not honest. People call it fake. I call it people being fear of facing criticism. We call it fake these days, but if someone's afraid of criticism, they come out as fake. Like you have to be willing. I told somebody that works for me, I said, listen, I would rather somebody be blunt to my face, tell me you screwed up, this is that, and we fix it together, than somebody goes, you know what, it's okay. And then 3 months later, you're getting hauled in to get put on a performance plan, and now you're in danger of losing your job. Because to me, it's important to know where you stand as an individual, and it feels like people are very, very afraid of that. Like, some people don't always mesh with that way of doing business, but I think it's important to be authentic, right? And that's what I feel like comes from you, is authenticity. Especially,
Appreciate
once I
that.
just started reading more and more, and it's authenticity is, I think, like right up there. Like, you have God, what we need, and then we need family and authenticity. It's like right up there, and that's what people don't have, and that's why people don't trust anything. People that even weren't in the same realm as you and Charlie in terms of religious beliefs, right? But they gravitated towards you guys because of the authenticity. They knew that,
Believe so. I believe that's why people gravitated towards Donald Trump. You may not have
yes,
agreed with everything he said, but at least you knew he was actually telling you what he thought, what he believed, not what some aide reading a poll told him to say. And I think that's why people gravitated towards him, because it was like, he's saying what I'm thinking, and I've been told I can't say that. And so authenticity is very attractive to the younger generation because they have lived in a fake world full of filters, and that's all they know. And so I think truth and realness and genuineness and authenticity is a breath of fresh air.
yeah, and it's just so crazy to me, because why wouldn't you want to? I think when you have that authenticity, it makes it easy to live. Like, you can be like, okay, hey, I'm feeling good about it, right? Like, you don't walk into a situation with fear. You walk in going, hey, Jackson, how are you doing today? I'm so and so, and you're okay because you feel it in your heart, in your
Right,
soul. To
right.
where if you're fake, you get nervous. You start making, I mean, you get nervous either way depending on what you're doing, but just as an in general rule. And it's something, I mean, like, we need faith in this country, and your approach, like I said, the authenticity. But then, the problem is we have some folks out there that like demonize people for just existing, and I'm like, that's what we got to get away from. I'm no biblical expert or theologist, but from my understanding is Jesus didn't want that type of behavior. Like, he didn't want people to act like that Christians. That's not what he wanted. He wanted us to love one another, regardless if you agreed with him always or not.
Yeah, no, that was he said, love one another, and he said, love your neighbor as yourself. Here's the thing. People, unfortunately, Christians have misquoted this. They have this catchphrase, love God and love the world. And the Bible never tells us to love the world. We're never once told, love the world, because you and I don't have the capacity to love the world. It's easy to love the world, though. I can love the starving kids in Africa. I don't see them. I don't mess with them. I can love them. We're told to love our neighbor. That's hard.
Yes.
My neighbor is the person next to me. My neighbor is the person who's right in front of me. It's easy to love the starving kids in Africa. Oh, we love the world. That's easy. Can you love the person who is right in proximity to you, who gets on your nerves, who agitates you, who persecutes you, who says things about you that are not true?
Yes.
That is what we are required to do, to love God and to love not the world. God loves the world. He's the only one with the capacity to love 8 billion people at one time. I can't love 8 billion people at one time. I can
No.
barely love my neighbor at one time. I am to love my neighbor. That's what I am called to do. The person in close proximity to me, and that person is probably going to agitate me. I mean, you know this. If you're married, you know this. The closest person to you sometimes is the hardest person to love because they get on your nerves.
But yeah, I retreat into my studio when if I come home and the kids have made my wife mad, I'm like, you know what? I make sure nobody's going to go crazy. And then I'm like, you guys made her mad. It's on you. Dad's going to go
Yep.
act like he's got something super important to fix in the garage or whatever I've got to do. And as mom kind of cools down a little bit and you guys are outside playing, then I'll reintroduce myself into the house,
Yep.
because as the husband, when you walk in the door, somehow, not every day, not all the time when they're mad, but some days it's your fault because you forgot to do something. And you're like, oh, that's right. I did forget that. I see why you're mad now. And then you're like, okay,
Yep.
well, let me exit stage left. And I wouldn't trade marriage for anything in the world. I mean, my wife's my best friend. She's probably, my biggest supporter of everything I do. I mean, I work full time. I run this podcast, I'm writing a children's book, I'm writing a book. Like I'm just doing all these things and she makes sure everything just flows, like I know if she were like, when she had surgery back in March and she wasn't able to be doing all that stuff, I learned real quick about how important my wife
Yes.
was.
Yes. Yes.
You get
And see
reminded
what
real fast.
marriage does, marriage exposes you. You can
Yes.
hide a lot of things from a lot of people. You can do that. Like, you're only going to see the best of me. And I'm only going to see the best of you. But when you're married, under the surface of what's really there comes out. And the worst of you gets exposed. And what marriage does, it refines you, it refines who you are, and it corrects who you are because you probably know this. Your wife will correct you in the areas where you are wrong that nobody else sees. And so marriage is a blessing. That's why, talking about Charlie was such a proponent of get married, have children, because that's the first calling for all of us is to love our families, to raise our families, train our families. If you want a strong nation, you have to have strong families. You can't have a strong nation with weak families or no families at all. You have to have strong families. And that's one of the biggest problems of why our country's in the toxic state that it's in is the breakdown of the family unit. Because the family has
Yes.
broken down, society is breaking down. If you want to fix society, it begins in the home. It doesn't begin in school, doesn't even begin in church. It begins in the home. Church is an addition to what's happening in the home. School is supposed to be, now, public schools haven't been, but schools are supposed to be an addition to what is being done in the house. And I think America has lost that, and we are suffering the seeds that have been sown from the breakdown of the house.
Yeah. It's tragic. I mean, it's because it's definitely not what the founders wanted. Well, they truly believed in the family values. uh, you know, I remember Charlie talking a lot about it, when there's not a father in the home, like how much crime rates, all these things go up. And, I can say that, probably without my dad, because God bless my mother, but definitely a whole lot more of a pushover than my father. Like there wasn't no getting around certain things in my dad. There's no debate. You're just going to do as I tell you. I don't care about your opinion. And granted, times are a little bit different now, but that's just how it was. But without that, sometimes depending on the child, like you need that influence, right? Because if not, there's no one to guide you. And if there's
Yes.
no one to guide you, you run awry, and that's why things like the Boys and Girls Club, things like that became critical in certain areas because they help kids get a little bit of that. And there's less and less of that now. And you're seeing, like you're saying, the fruit of those seeds. I mean, that's literally what's happening because you don't have a place for young men and women that are lost, a place for them to go to find solace out, because they've been told church is for crazy people. like, I've heard that before, so they're wandering, hoping something's going to get better, and then it doesn't.
Let's take a quick break.
Tired of the noise and spin? Join the MiddleGround Mic Patreon for 7 days for free. And then it's just $1 a month afterwards. Real talk, real people right now. Sign up today, middlegroundmic.com. Click on the button.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think it's important that, that men really step up in this moment as well in America. Men
Yes.
have a particular role in families. The man biblically is to provide for his family, protect his family, and guide his family. That's the role biblically of fatherhood and being a husband. And those things have kind of been they've been kind of dismissed. And if America's going to make it, men are going to have to be men. Now, I'm not talking abusive, domineering. I'm not referring to any of that. That's not biblical. What I'm referring is to true masculinity, biblical masculinity. And if we return to that, which that was the threat that Charlie Kirk was. Charlie Kirk was teaching boys how to be men. You can be
Yes.
born a biological male, and you can be a boy your entire life. There is a difference in being a man. A boy has sex with his girlfriend. A man has sex with his wife. There's a vast difference.
Bingo.
And
Bingo.
so going into manhood, that's what Charlie was doing. He was teaching young boys how to become men. And that's why he was so hated by so many, because he was saying it's okay that you're a man. It's okay. You are a man, and that's okay. And let me show you how to be one.
Yes.
A good man. I'm not talking abusive, domineering. That's not what we're talking about. A good man. And that's what America needs. America needs good men to step up and to lead their families. And if that happens, America will be great again. If that doesn't happen, we will go into the dustpan of civilizations.
One thing that I think that there is, like, if you want to call it like little tidbits of possible positivity, is the marriage rates, or the divorce rates, I should say, are going down finally.
Yes.
You're starting to see it
Yes.
drop, and you're seeing a little bit of an increase in the marriage rates. So while they don't want to admit it on the news, people are starting to find value in that again. They're starting to find that they want that home, right? Because, like, no matter where your job
The
takes you,
heart
no matter
longs
where
for
life
it.
takes you. Yes.
The heart
And people are finding
longs.
it.
People want to, here's what everyone wants. They want to love and to be loved, because that will make them happy. They want to love and they want to be loved. And they have discovered that wokeism has produced nothing that it promised. And so people are having a knee-jerk reaction to it. You talking about positive stats. Young men are outpacing young women to church right now, which is like unbelievable. That's not how it goes. Girls drag the guys.
Yeah,
Not right
when I was
now,
growing up,
young
that's how
men.
it was.
That's how it was when I was growing up. It was the girl that dragged me to the house of God. And the only reason I didn't go for salvation, I went for galvation. All right. That's why I went to church as a teenager. First time Bible sales are at an all-time high right now. What does that mean? These are not people who own Bibles going and buying more Bibles. People who have never owned Bibles are going out and buying Bibles in droves. It's record high right now. So there is positive. This is why I say the season what we're entering into, in my opinion, we are going to see great spiritual awakening take place. But as the kingdom of God is advancing, you will see the kingdom of darkness also rear its ugly head as well. And that's why I say I think the season we're entering into, it will be the best of times, it will be the worst of times at the exact same time. And you're like, that doesn't make sense. I think that's what we're going to have. We're going to see great things happen. And I think we're going to see terrible things happen at the exact same time. And so our hearts have to be prepared for that. We have to be prepared for that.
Yeah, and that's going to be a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, but it's also going to be an important one. And the reason why I say it is because it's going to help us, to me, hopefully, in the long run, it's going to help us get to where we need to be.
Yes.
Especially.
But listen, the light wins. The darkness
Yes.
will not prevail. But there is darkness. That's like you can't just put your head in the sand and say, no, evil's just going to magically go away. No, it's not. No, it's not. However, we don't cower down in fear. We live by faith, and we are the light of the world to invade the darkness.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's actually, there's really not a better way to say that.
Well,
we have
I
to,
stole it from a pretty good teacher. His name was Jesus, so it's not original with me.
that's, I mean, case in point, it's sad that we're at where we're at. Obviously your book is something that people need, and I encourage people to buy it, your book and anything of that nature and get a Bible. Try it. It's okay. Don't be afraid. You're not going to open it up and you're not going to be like a vampire and all of a sudden
You're not going
vanish,
to become
like,
weird. You won't become, unless you're
yeah,
already weird. If you're already weird and you pick up a Bible, you'll still be weird. But if you're not weird and you read a Bible, you won't be weird.
right. Yeah. And that's, and having young pastors like yourself is important because I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, knocking any of the pastors when I was growing up, they were usually always old, like 70-something-year-old men that were, they were just at that point in their life and they were probably just grumpy. And, so this generation responds to positivity, and
Yes.
that's why that's why you're like, it's just, they're like, okay, hey, there's somebody that looks like me, that age group, they're there. Okay. I know they kind of understand where I'm coming from, where, again, not knocking anybody's age, but sometimes, if you've got a 15-year-old that's struggling and then you've got a 70-year-old telling them how to live life, it doesn't connect as much as if it's someone like you, Charlie. I mean, I'm getting up there, but, hopefully myself, so it's important, and the fact that you're visible, that visibility is so important. And, you putting it out there, it's just, it's been a tumultuous time for our country and for the world really this week, because I've seen so many people from overseas even heartbroken. It's, he didn't just have an impact here; he had an impact around the world, and that's a great thing. That we need more of it.
Yes,
And
and
I know you're telling.
hopefully his death will spurn, 100 more Charlie Kirks.
Yeah, well, I mean, we need it. There can never be a shortage. We need more. I mean, we need droves. We need droves of positive people that want to be positive, that are okay with being positive, okay with showing a man how to be a man, like with guiding people. Like, it's okay. Don't be afraid. Like, to guide them. And we just don't. Nobody's guided anymore. They're just kind of thrown to the wind and say, hey, hopefully it gets better for you, and thumbs up, good luck, bye bye. You know, and that's why we got kids that are so lost. I mean, I see sometimes kids that are just like, I talk to them at work and I'll be like, hey, it's okay. You had a bad day. Duh. And it's like they've never heard that before. And I'm just like, man, like I don't tell them that, but I'm like, man, my heart really breaks for you because, my dad was a tough, old, cranky person. But when it was needed, my dad was like, hey, it's okay. You screwed up. Let's pick ourselves back up and move forward. And man, it is so lost. And that's why it's so refreshing. Like, I can't tell you, like Turning Point, all these movements, I've been following them for probably, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years now. Like, just truly, I mean, I've been following obviously the president for a lot longer, but it's just nice to see, right? Because you had the previous leadership that was, I don't know really who was running the show, because I don't even know
I
if
think
he
his
knows where
name
he's at
started with a
sometimes.
B, and I think his last name started with an O.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Because, I mean, like I've said in one of my previous episodes, really, I feel bad for him, for Biden, because I feel like his circle took advantage of him.
Oh my gosh,
And
I know that's
the,
when people say we should prosecute Joe Biden. I actually say no, I don't think we should prosecute Joe Biden. He's not he's at a state mentally it's not worth prosecuting him because I don't think he really knew what was happening. Just my opinion.
no,
I don't see the value
no,
in it.
I mean, when you look at the Joe Biden when he was before, obviously age caught up to him. I don't think half the things that would have went on because Joe Biden was very centrist in his younger years.
It's a lot
He
different
was a
in the
lot
Senate than
more,
he was. Yes.
yeah, and I think that because too many people told him what to do and how to think, and he was just at a point in his life where he's like, okay, whatever, and he was just there, and it's sad to see somebody go through that. And the more I learned right after President Trump won again, and then the more, because it's like as soon as he won, all of a sudden all these people that were hiding everything started spilling the beans. Chris Cuomo flipped that script so fast.
Jake
As soon as,
Tapper, all of
yeah,
them.
yeah, they pretty much all came out and said, yeah, we were told to lie to you guys.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
it's the
Chris
worst.
Cuomo has come out and said, yeah, I was told to lie to you. He
It's
goes,
the
I was
worst.
told that if pretty much if I didn't do this, I would lose my job. And at some point, he kind of just was like, I'm just going to say what I got to say. I'm not like an anti Chris Cuomo. I'm not per se pro him, but I like the fact that he's willing to engage people, and he's not always a jerk. I mean, I'm sure there's probably instances where he is, but it was refreshing to see somebody be like, hey, man, Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you seen the Joe Rogan episode with Mark Zuckerberg, where they talked about, like, yeah, they were, previous administration was telling us if we don't censor conservatives, this, that, and we're coming after you. And I'm like, that really made me think to the Great Depression. FDR did the same thing. If you're a Republican state, they give you less funds than they did Democratic states.
Yep. Awesome.
I really like everything that you're doing, and I appreciate you coming on this show. We just try to chase balance and level headed. Okay, I appreciate it, Jackson. Stay safe out there, man, and stay proud. All right, thank you. Have a good one. Bye bye.